Today, Robert, thank you very much for your commitment to liberty, for bringing people together, this great location, for this great cause. Thank you very much to the candidates, the great candidates that we've heard from today. I really hope that each of you will take the time to get out, get engaged in these campaigns, and make sure that the rhetoric of our liberty, that the commitments that we have match the results that we bring, and that we're engaged in that way. When I spoke here last April, as many of you well know, on the Tax Day Tea Party, and we'll be having the second round of those again this year, I said this. I said that the grounds of Philadelphia liberty are where our cause began. I've spoken all over the country in support of our Tea Party movement, but this is where our cause began. The battle for liberty that we're engaged in is not going to be easy. It never has been. Jefferson, Madison, Washington, Paine, the men that founded this nation on these grounds knew that. And we too are facing challenges from those who oppose founding principles, and no doubt we will face more. Our response has to be simple. We are not going to stop. This movement is not going to stop defending the liberty of our founders granted on this very land. We will grow our movement and we will build our message. And how are we going to do this? Contrary to how it's been depicted by some of our critics, we're going to do it in a very inclusionary way. The ideas that we represent are inherent in this nation, and they burn in the blood of every American. We will reach out to them, and we will spread this message, and we will win converts, and we will take this country back. What's the basis for our optimism as you look at Washington right now? You might frown a bit and say that maybe there isn't much. But let me tell you, look at the history of this nation. Yorktown, Normandy, every jungle and distant land where the Cold War was fought. We Americans are champions of liberty, and we have prevailed because our commitment to liberty is greater than theirs is to tyranny, and so it is today. Our cause is not so complicated. We're restoring the government Lincoln described here in Pennsylvania at Gettysburg. One nation, under God, rooted in a new birth of freedom, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, that shall not perish from this earth. And friends, this cause began right back in this great building. The greatest documents since the Bible itself were brought together there. I want to talk a bit about Washington right now. You've heard some of the good ideas here today. This administration, this Congress has it wrong on just about everything. Let's start with the economy. And we'll start just a little macroeconomics 101. Mr. Obama, over this last year, has talked over and over again.
President Obama!
Creating jobs.
President Obama!
It said that we need to even say this. Sir, you can come on after me, sir. For now, I'll take it. Mr. Obama, this government does not create jobs. The American people and the American private sector create jobs.
Yes!
Most of our nation's creation, as most of you well know, starts with small business. What's this administration and Congress done for small business? They're raising taxes. They're increasing health care premium costs. And they're promising new tax and regulatory burdens to their status cap and trade and other initiatives. They're not just destroying American jobs, they also are driving the ones we do have overseas, because our global competitors, China, India, South Asia, they're playing to win in this global economy and are making their nations more and more friendly to private sector development and free enterprise, just as we do the opposite. This administration's policies are creating constraints and sort of uncertainty that perpetuates doubt for our private sector. And the result is that the economy stagnates, and it is stagnating on their watch. It reminds me of that old saying, definition, but what is a recession? What is a depression? I'm sure you all heard it. Recession is when a friend loses his job. Depression is when you lose your job. Well, today we had a third component to that. Economic recovery is when Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Reid lose their jobs in November. Stimulus, bailouts, job recovery bills. All of you know well, these things are not job creating. These are euphemisms for larger and larger government, and it comes at a price of less and less liberty. The administration talks of change, but just as important is what it doesn't speak of. You won't hear much about them from the nation. Why is that? Why is that? Because as these principles are forgotten, and sadly they are being forgotten in our schools, in our culture, it creates a climate where their change, not the founding principles of the nation, not our Constitution, become the new American foundation. And the brave acts and words spoken here at Philadelphia Hall become an ancient and long forgotten memory. Well, we promise them this: the great history of this nation, the great acts conducted and words spoken on the land on which we stand today here at Independence Mall will be forever memorialized, and we will carry that spirit and history with us as we defend our liberty once again. We say this: freedom will not die on our watch, and we will pass it on carefully to future generations to preserve and protect, because nothing is so cherished as American liberty. And of course, problems aren't just with what this administration and Congress are doing at home. Problems also with what they're doing to our national security and our foreign policy, precisely as China, Russia, Iran, North Korea are increasing their armaments and their aggressiveness. We are becoming more disengaged and less properly armed. Ronald Reagan told us all we need to know about national security and foreign policy. He said peace comes through strength. But instead, this government is creating growing threats through weakness. Here today, consistent, I believe, with the thoughts of our founders, we say that we are not an imperialist power. We do not seek conflict with any nation of the world, but we will ensure that American interests are protected. And that starts with acknowledging that the war on terror is not adjudicated like some traffic citation, but is won.
Yes!
You cannot be afraid to say that word of victory. These are the things that we hear from this administration, this Congress. Now, let's say a few things about the words you don't hear from them. Let's start with the obvious. They almost never speak, as you may have noticed, of God. Mr. Obama adopted a dog in a matter of weeks. He's been in Washington over a year. Still hasn't joined a church. Say, okay, maybe he's not much for formalized religion. He goes to Jesuit universities and covers Christian symbols before him. He goes to foreign lands and tells the world that we are not a Christian nation. These are not coincidences, my friends. These are policies. And there are good reasons why you don't hear this president invoke the name of our Creator. And you've heard some of them here today. And it's this: when our founders signed the Declaration back here on July 4th, 1776, they did so with what they called a firm reliance on divine providence. In the preamble, they did not say the government affords us these rights. They wrote emphatically that these rights were entitled to us by nature's God. And that's a big problem, isn't it? Their deity is not God. Their deity has become government. And it must be this way for them to get what they want.